All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you all had a good lunch. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Chunkit. You can call me CK. I'm a tech support engineer for Yamaha Music Asia. So let's go on to our webinar today. Today's webinar will be on our Rivage PM series, covering basic operations and how to navigate this console. So what we'll be going through today is the user interface, of course. So what you see when you use the console, when you get the console, how to navigate that general user interface, how to route signal, so patching, basic patching and routing, some effects, so some things that are good to know, and how to use our effects. And of course, lastly, some operator level troubleshooting, and followed by a Q&A session. So let's go to the most used page when you're an operator mixing on the Rivage PM series. So this is the selected channel view. We call it a selected channel view because it displays most of the important parameters of the selected channel, in this case, channel 1. So what can we do in our selected channel? So we can do channel processing, we can set our gain, silk, EQ, dynamics, stuff like that. We can do patching, routing of signal. So patching is at the top here. Routing, you can see your mix and matrices at the side. And some of you might be wondering, what's this M1 RY1-1? I'll go through that later. So if we go on to our editor software, so you see pretty much the same thing here. So I'll go from left to right. So on the left side is pretty much your utility side. So you can isolate, recall, save all here. There's pen, you can punch in or out to your stereo, A or B. Fader on off, which is also available in hardware form on the console, and your cue. And down here is where you can, if you click here, you can rename your channel, set your colors, everything, make it look nice. And of course, you can make a channel pair. When we move to one step to the right, we see a patching page just at the top, around the left top. So this M1 RY1-1, what does it mean? So we click into it, and then we see all these slots, a lot of slots. There's MY, there's RY, HY, Omni, and all this looks very confusing. So how do we differentiate what is where? So on the Rivage, we have our main and sub networks that is designated by the M or S. So in this case, we only have the M network, which is the main. 1 is the unit ID. So basically, it's your first stage box. Very simple, the first stage box. And then the RY slots is, so we call our input, outputs, and EES cards that we have available on the RPIOs, which is the Rivage series stage box, RY card slots. So RY slot 1 just means the first card slot in your stage box. So in this case is M1, which is the first stage box, RY slot 1, which is the first card slot, and the 1 to 16 here, which if I close this, you see the -1 or to -16, that just means the port number. So first stage box, first slot, first port. That's all there is to it. So it's quite simple once you get used to this naming convention, and then you can know where you are patching to or where you're patching from. So once you get this out of the way, you kind of know where your signal is going already. So we move down. We have analog gain. So this is all your gain stage. Your analog digital gain, your silk, which is Rupert Neve preamps, which you have blue and red. And of course, you can on and off. Digital gain and input delay. And on the middle here is your EQ. So for EQ, we click on the EQ page. We go into more in-depth. So we can adjust our high pass, low pass, we can on and off. then we have 4 bands of EQ, or 8 bands if it's an output channel. So if this is the first time you're seeing this page, we can get to this page by clicking maybe any encoder. So your analog gain encoder, you click again. Or in the case of a user, you just tap on the screen the second time, you get to the same page. Why does this look different? Because this is the entire channel parameter page. So first we have our gain, silk. Then we have our EQ, which we are going through now. So we can adjust our EQ. Next up is our dynamics. So we have our gate, de-esser, expander, ducker, compressors all here. So same, we have 2 of these per input channel. You can have a single channel view, and of course 72 channels, your mix and your matrix view. So where's the dynamics found on the selected channel? It's here. So you can see dynamic 1 and 2. If you want to go back, we can just click on the encoder or wherever again, and we'll get back here. So the next tab is our inserts and direct out. So a lot of users and house of worship or venue, we use direct outs for multi-track recording, multi-track to like a Mac or PC, or maybe we can use it for AVOMs or something like a live mix. So this is used quite commonly. One way to use it is to just directly send it out from a channel so that we don't waste any extra input channels. So we have a direct out, we can patch through here, through an output. We can patch it through Dante. So if you're running multi-tracks through a Dante network, you can just patch this to a Dante channel, which would be on your HY slot here. And for direct out points, we have 7 direct out points. I'll show you a better diagram of the insert and direct out points later. This is not as easy to visualize, but you'll see a clearer picture later. And of course, you have the channel overview of your inserts and direct outs. So that is found here at the top, the center top, just below the scenes. Direct out and inserts are these. So you have 4 times 2 inserts, so total 8 inserts. Can on, off, and select where, what to mount and all here. Next is your delay. Delay is on the left bottom side. So you can just on the delay, set delay point and adjust the delay. Sends to and from is just basically where you're sending to. So in this case, if I close this channel parameter page, it will be on your far right side. So you can see your matrix and mix channels. That will be where you can see your sends to and sends from. So if I send from my selected channel, which is channel 1, to matrix 1 here at around 0, you will see it reflected here. So it's quite simple if you follow that channel parameter signal flow all the way. So down here we can do our pre or post, and our sends follow. We have 3 different parameters for your sends to follow. To stereo is just punching in and out, in or out to your stereo A or B. DCA mute and assign, so your DCA, your groups, and your mute groups can be all assigned through here. And lastly, we have our signal flow. I'll go through this in the troubleshooting section later on. So all these can be found within this page. Can be found within this page. And when you click your encoders or your parameters, you'll get to the channel parameter where you can see 8 channel overview, 72 channel overview, or just a single channel. Then you can go along your signal chain, your signal flow. You can recall your libraries. You can copy, paste, and all that just within this page. So there's a lot you can do within the selected channel page, and that's where most operators will live. They won't need to do the setup stuff. They will just need to mix and make sure things sound good. So that is what this webinar is for. So the next important part is this top area. So let's go back to the slides. So we call it the function access bar. You can call it whatever you like, but it's this area at the top here. So it shows you your channel. And of course, you have scenes in the center. The important parts are the status icons here, where you see the C and D. I'll go through that later as well. Monitor, rec and record. So this will be your effects rec and your USB recording and your channel drop. So these are the important tabs you have for a user, for an operator. So back to the editor software. So we have the same bar here. So let's go for the first one. The first is scenes. So when you click on scenes, this is the page that appears. So this is your scene list. So all the scenes that you have will be here. You don't have the basic options are store, update, and recall. So of course you have an update undo and a recall undo, which update means you store over the scene that you are selected. So if I press update now, it will store over scene 1. And if I accidentally press update, press OK, I realize I made a change that I don't want to make, I can always undo it. Same for recall. So if I accidentally recall the next scene when I didn't intend to, I can just undo it. So these are the main parameters that you have: store, update, and recall. Quite simple for scene. And I won't go through the advanced functions, maybe in another webinar or something. So let's see it on the editor. So the bar at the top here, we have our scenes. We can store, update, or recall. So store stores a new scene. You'll go to the next available number. You can press OK. Update updates the scene that is selected. So it will update that scene for that I just saved, and recall will recall that scene. Of course, when I press update or recall, the undo function stops being grayed out. So I can actually have an action to undo already. So here are your scenes. You can scroll with the touch and turn. So scenes are quite straightforward. The next is your monitor tab. So for monitor, you have Q and monitor settings. So if you use actual monitors or you want to do your Q settings, PFL, AFL, that's where you do it. Your oscillator and your talkback settings. So more to open the window that is inside, we click on the side here. We can see here. So if I want to access the monitor settings, I click here. I can set my monitor source. I can set different things of my monitor settings. Same for Q. Okay, mix Q, last Q, and I can set my Q points. Oscillator. If you want to check your input, your signal flow to your outputs, you want to send noise to certain speakers, you can do that in your oscillator page. And of course, your talkback mic. If you want to change talk groups or you want to set your talk groups, you can do it here. So these are the things that you can do in the monitor page. So everything to do with your monitor, Q, oscillator, and talkback is in your monitor page. So next is your rec and record. So rec is your effects rec, record is your USB record. Let me click that. Go back to the first tab. Okay, so you see a bunch of effects here. By default, this is all blank. What you have is your plugins send and insert, plugin allocation, which is your resource for your plugin. So certain plugins you can see take more resource than others. Some takes 2 resource, some takes 16, some takes 8. Depends on what effects they are. So you can allocate your plugin when you decide to mount this plugin into your console. After that, we have our GEQ rack. So we have 48 EQ racks. You can mount your GEQ, PEQ, or your auto mixer. In this case, it's a 32 channel auto mixer mounted. So you can just scroll with this wheel on the right here, the right bottom corner, all the way to 48. So this is where you mount your GEQ. And lastly is your USB recorder. So USB recorder, if you plug your USB into the recording port, you can use it to record or playback your tracks, or you can just do a simple 2-track recording. So that is quite a useful function if you're just looking for a quick and easy backup recording, something like that. Okay, the next is your channel drop. So channel job here is similar to what we have on our selected channel page. So we have our DCA and mute group assigned in this area here. We can also access that through our channel job. So quite simple. The things that are different is the last 4 options, which allows you to link your channel, copy default, channel default, which makes everything flat. I can show you. Make everything flat. And move, so we can move channels like a cut and paste kind of thing. So that is it for the channel job. So that's quite simple. So all we have to navigate mostly is your selected channel. And if you know how to navigate your function access area, which is at the top bar, this doesn't change wherever I go in the console. You can see it can be on any tab I want. Sense on fader, it doesn't matter because this bar and the meters always stay there. So this is pretty much exactly the same as what you'll see on the console when you use the console. So we move on to our effects. So effects here, back to our slides. So during our tech support, we get a lot of questions from some of our basic users on effects sense and effects insert, when to use, what are they, and hopefully this will explain better, a bit more visual explanation rather than a verbal explanation of what inserted effects do, what kind of effects to use, and the same thing for sense. So when do we use an insert? When do we send to an aux or mix channel? So we start with insert. So inserts are single channel inserts. It's directly inserted into the channel. The entire signal is processed. So you can see from this simple diagram here, we have input signal pumped into the inserted effect. So we just insert that to whatever insert point that you would see later. So we have a bunch of insert points, same as your direct out points. So this is your insert points. The difference between this and a send is that it goes out and come in at the same point. It doesn't go out to the effects and come in at a different point. So entire signal goes into the inserted effects, is processed, and goes out to whatever is next in the chain. So it can be your output bus, it can be a different effects, it can be anything else. But the key is that the entire signal is processed. So no matter what, you won't have like a parallel compression, a dry signal, or blend for you, even though you have a blend. You might have a blend within the effects, the inserted effects. The entire signal is still being run through. So you won't have a truly like a dry or unaffected signal running parallel or running in another route to your inserted effects. So we use this for dynamics, tonal effects, stuff like EQ. So in this case, we have a dynamic EQ. Other dynamics like compression, primary source enhancers, we use that for as an insert. So when do we use our sense? So before we answer that, we try to figure out what is a send. So sends are sending a group of channels, or can be a single channel as well, sending to an effects, and then we return back. So we send and then it returns, but it doesn't return back to the input channels. It returns back as a separate input channel or return channel. So what this gives you is it allows you to blend your signal. So you can see the mic here going down, whatever channel processing, you have your pan, your EQ, your gain, and your fader settings, it goes to the outputs. The auxiliary send is sent somewhere earlier in the chain, perhaps, send to the effects, back out to another auxiliary return. So in the case of our Rivage system, you can use an input channel for auxiliary return, and you can use that channel to blend how much effects do you want. So a good thing about using sense is one thing is that you can send multiple channels to a single mix, which is your affected mix bus. Then you can have multiple channels and only one effects used. So that is quite useful. For inserts, it's just one channel to one effect. So it can start to use up quite a bit of resources if you can do it in a sense kind of workflow, but you go to a insert workflow, and then it can be quite resource heavy. Another thing is that it allows blending. So you can see there's a separate chain of signal that is going straight out without ever going into this effects processor. So this only takes in what you are sending from the auxiliary send. You have a dry signal, a clean signal for you to work with, and then you can blend your return channel. So what do we use this for? We use this for time-based effects, things like delay, reverb. So you can usually see like vocal reverb on your mix bus. You have a lot of your like backing vocals, your main vocals being sent to just that one mix bus alone. So that is, you can send maybe 5-10 channels to it, no problem. So that is why we use, that's the situation where we use sends and versus inserts. So let me show you on the editor what it looks like. So we have sends and insert. So for those that's not so familiar yet, let's go back to the selected channel. So we have our rec and record page. We click that. We can go to our sends or our inserts. So let's start with sends, right? To mount a new effect, we just press mount. Okay, let's say we want the new Eventide SP 2016. So this is what I mean by plug-in assignment or your resource allocation. You can see at the top here, the size is 16 resources. So you can shift. So of course, 16 takes up the entire bar, but if it's something like 2, 5, 8, you can shift it as you need. So let's just press OK. So Sense, how is it patched? So if I mount something on Sense, I click the patch. I can patch it to a mix. So let's say I patch to mix 24 as my, so from mix 24, it goes into the effects processor. And then on the output, you will patch it. You can see by default, it is an input channel. You can see I scroll down. Of course, you can patch it to an insert, but by default, at the start, they give you all input channels. So let's do channel 12. So you can see, similar to the diagram, it goes into a mix. So mix 24, so that is your auxiliary send, and then it returns back to channel 12. So on the console, what you can do is just, you want more effects, you just bring up channel 12. You want less, you can bring that down. So back to our slide, you can see the auxiliary send. The send here is your mix 24, and it's coming back to an actual channel, which is channel 12 here. So you can see that in action on the editor. So what if we do an insert? So let's insert EQ. You can see it takes less resource, just 2. So we have 2. Oops. Okay, so we have 2. Okay, so we have our EQ here. So when I click the patch, you'll see something different, right? When you scroll down, you see inserts. INS stands for insert, so it's inserted into channel whatever, 1 to 3. So let's just insert it on channel 1. And when I patch channel 1, you'll notice that it automatically patches the output also back to channel 1 because it's an insert. Like I said in my previous slide for inserts, the entire signal goes in, sent to the effects, and comes back out at the same place that it's sent out from. So on here, it's inserted into channel 1, insert 1. So this is, if you go to channel 1 here, we can see it reflected here. So we can edit the EQ here. But the important thing is that we insert is inserted straight into the channel. And then if it's a mix, we have to, send to our mix. So we go to our mix, we have to send to 24, and then we send. And then only it will send to our mic to mix 24, where we use it for like a reverb or delay and stuff like that. So I hope that clarifies for some of our users what is the difference between a send and an insert, what effects is it commonly used for. It's not like a hard and fast rule that only time-based effects you use send, only dynamics, EQ, you use inserts. This is just like a basic guideline. If you want to follow, you can use that as a basic guideline. Then as you start to mix more, you learn more techniques. There's different things that you can do that like parallel compression, different things like that that doesn't follow that rule as much. But this is just a good starting point for you to know why I want to use sends, what are the pros and cons, and why I want to use inserts, what are the pros and cons of that. And then from there, you just apply this knowledge to wherever you're mixing. So let's go back to our slides to the next section, which is our basic troubleshooting. So on the Rivage, there's a few sort of inbuilt features that help you to troubleshoot when there's no sound, when you have things going out of sync. You don't need like a technician there. You don't need the system tech there to really use some kind of diagnostic software, or you don't need like Yamaha techs like me to go down to help diagnose. There's a lot of things you can do before it gets to that point. So one of the first things that can be done is to check your error messages. So if there is a problem with the console, let's say some of the connections come out or cable is cut, first thing you'll get is an error message, usually at the bottom. If not, it's a pop-up window right in the middle. I can't show you now because I'm not connected to a console and I cannot recreate like a problem, but it will usually turn up as like a red or yellow message at the bottom or a pop-up. So when you see that, if you're not sure what it means, take a photo, send it to someone that you think knows what it means. If you know what it means, then great. The error message is doing its job. It's telling the user that, you know, certain things are disconnected. Please go and solve it. So first level is your error message. You don't need to do anything. It will pop up wherever you are in any page. Second thing is your status icon. So your status icons, let me go back to the editor to show you where it is. So it's a bit small. It's this box in the center, just on the right of your scene. So you can see your scenes tab here on the right. I'm not sure if you can see the words. It's MSCDR. So gray means not found because I'm using the editor offline. So of course it's not found. So what's important is knowing what these things mean. So they have different colors and also the letters stand for different things. So M and S stands for the main and the sub network. So you can see here M1. So M1 will be under M. So if there's a problem with your main network, cable issue, stage box down, so you will see this change color. So maybe it's supposed to be blue or green. It might change to gray if it's out of sync or something like that. S is the sub network, so it's the same stage box, just in another network. C is your console network. So your console network is you have a control surface connected to a DSP. So the DSP is not inbuilt like our CL or QL series where it's just a console. You don't need an external DSP. The Rivage has an external DSP. So the C helps to tell you that, okay, your console network, your cables or something like that is disconnected. The ring connection is open or something like that. So we'll change color based off that. D and R is your, I believe, your DSP, and your R is your redundant or RPIO. Let me double check that. Can't remember at the moment. So your D is your DSP. So if you have issues with your DSP, so C is your console, D is your DSP. So DSP is if you have any issues with DSP, we have redundant power supply. Let's say one of the redundant power supply goes down. It will tell you that, okay, there's a problem there. So of course, we don't want to see gray if it's supposed to be there. Ideally, it's green or blue, which means synchronized. So that is the second level of basic troubleshooting. So if you remember what I said earlier, this function access bar is always there, regardless of what page you go to. I can go to the patch page, my inserts is always there. So you can always monitor the status of your entire network. So your network can be all over a venue or over your church or your hall. you can always see what is going on in general, and then you can check from there. So this is the second level. The third level is your signal flow. So I said that I'll go through this later. So this page here shows you your signal flow of your channel, your input channel or your output channel, depends on what is selected. So if we go back to the editor, I can show you. So I select my channel 1. I go to signal flow, which is here near the top right. Okay, so you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 metering points. So it's 7 metering points at various points of this channel 1. So we can see that your insert points are inserted at different, you can select different insert points, and your direct out and your delay is, you can put it at different points. So all these things, especially your inserts, maybe if you use outboard inserts, these things can maybe, if not set properly, will cause like a cut in signal, things like that. You can meter where this cut is going or where the signal is going off. So on channel 1, let's say you have no signal going out of channel 1. If you see no metering right at the start, it could be something on the stage box, it could be a cable issue, something before the GC, the gain, the digital, definitely before digital gain, before gain compensation. So you will know to check before that. It will not be something that like an insert. It will not be your channel processing, because those are after. So your EQ, your dynamics, stuff like that. Another example is maybe it's not metering after your inserts. It could be that your inserts are cutting the signal. Same thing for your dynamics. Dynamics like gate with a threshold that is set wrongly can completely cut out your signal, make it very choppy. You can see if it's metering fine at the EQ and it's a bit funky at dynamics 1 or dynamics 2, the signal gets a bit, or rather maybe a lot lower, you can check your dynamics, or even if your inserts are here, you can check there. So this is the same for your output channels, and it's the same for every single channel. So you have this dedicated for every single channel, and you can check your signal flow, where is it being affected, how much is it really cutting off, or are you pushing too hard? You can even see that. So, and it's also the same for your output channels. So in your outputs, you can, if your inputs are sending to your outputs, so let's say on your matrix channel, you're not getting any signal, you can do the exact same thing, and this will show on your, let's say, matrix 1 channel. So you can monitor where signal cutting off, where signal is going down or up wrongly or correctly. So you know where to check, especially if it's a hardware issue, you can sort of narrow down the cause of the issue and go and check, because normally doing shows, it's a bit, there's a lot of time constraint. This I find helps to check your signal flow. And of course, if you have cuts here and there, you know where to narrow it down to. So this is very helpful. Again, it's select the channel page, signal flow here. Okay. So this brings me to my Q&As section. So if you have any questions about the previous slides, anything that you want covered that I didn't cover, or maybe I went too fast, you missed something, you can let us know in the question and answer section. So not the chat, but the question and answer. So we can see any questions that you might have. If you have anything else regarding the Rivage that you want to ask questions on, no worries, you can ask. And then maybe I can show you, or just rewind the slides a bit, or show you on the editor if you have any questions. So just go to the questions Q&A tab. So that should be at the like a bottom bar. And then you can ask me whatever you want about this webinar. All right, so let me see. Let's get back to this slide. I forgot to show you this. So this is your status icons. So let me go through this again because I forgot earlier what the R stands for. So we have our main twin lane network, sub twin lane network, console network status, DSP engine status, and RPIO. Yeah, so it's RPIO rack status. So the RPIO is our stage box for the Rivage series. So what the colors mean is green means online. So we usually want it to be green. Yellow means it's still online. There's an issue detected. So it can be an open ring connection, but because redundancy kicks in, or maybe the redundant power supply is unplugged, so it's still running, it's still online. There's no critical issue, but there is an issue detected. So it's more of a warning. Go get it solved before the main thing goes down. Red means error, blue means out of sync, and gray means offline. So this, what you see on the editor just now, it's gray because we are not connected, so it's offline. So anything that is supposed to be green should be green. Okay, most of the time, we at least your M, if you use twin lane, your M, your console, your DSP, and your RPIO. Of course, if you're running Dante network, you'll not have the main and sub network, but no matter what, you still have your console network status and DSP engine, because at minimum, that's what you need. And then from then on is your standard Dante network. All right. So do we have any questions from our attendees? So would the recording be made available? Yes. We should have this uploaded on YouTube, so you can watch it again, or if you know anyone that cannot make it today, you can pass them the link on YouTube when we upload it. So if your next question is how do you know when we upload? You can follow our Instagram or Facebook, because usually we post on especially our Facebook page, we post on there quite often. So updates like webinars, webinar videos that are posted, most of the updates will be on Facebook. So if you want to keep up to date, you want to know when the next webinar is out, you can follow us on Instagram or Facebook. So that's where we do most of our updates on. Do we have any more questions? If we have no more questions, I think we can end this webinar. And if you have any questions, just feel free to contact us, even though you think of something that, or you're shy to ask, no worries. You can just contact us via email on anything that you'd like to know about our products or Rivage series console or systems. So thank you very much. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for taking time off your schedule, and hope to see you in the next webinar. Thank you.